Welcome to Builders, the podcast for leaders who want to build great companies. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic advisor to world-class builders. This podcast dives into the wild rides and personal transformations that come with pursuing big dreams and becoming a leader who builds incredible teams and companies. Each episode, I'm joined by a guest who helps deliver a fresh perspective designed to leave you feeling less lonely, more connected to innovative ideas, and inspired about growing your business your way. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite channel, leave us a 5-star review, and share your favorite episode with a friend. The podcast is sponsored by Alex Snyder Advisory. If you are a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with a high-performing team, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership audit and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's build. Thank you so much for being here. This is the first episode live, whatever you want to call it, of season 2, and I am joined by Michael Hales. Hi.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me along today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. It feels so serendipitous to have you joining this particular episode for so many reasons. And let me give a little bit of context before I pass it over to you. You were actually supposed to be the guest on the inaugural episode of this series of lives, which ended up becoming an unplanned podcast back in February, to talk about SaaS, software as a service. And through a series of calamities, you were stranded by a mudslide on your morning commute. The things that happen when we live in remote areas. I believe you were in Colombia at the time. And we were very fortunate to have your wonderful associate, Alex, jump on, cover the conversation about SaaS and how it links to growing business and profit and margins, and obviously really important things. But today, we're going to talk about some really important things as well. And what many people might not know was that period of time was actually really challenging for you. And now here we are 6 months later, kicking off season 2. It's September, which is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And you are here predominantly to talk about your journey to building a nonprofit focused on men's mental health. So it feels very full circle, very serendipitous. As a good friend, I want to say I'm honored to have you here. It's been incredible to see the pace at which you move, your ability to alchemize your experiences into resources for others. And you absolutely have one of the biggest hearts of anyone I know. So we are going to cover a lot of ground today, and I've barely scratched the surface in that introduction. So before we dive in, can you add on and introduce yourself and your background a little bit for those listening?
Thank you, Alex. That was an amazing introduction. don't know if I deserve it, but thank you. So I met Alex as well. I think we should talk about that quickly. I met Alex in Mexico City a few years back in Diez de Muertos, and she was dressed up for the celebrations. And yeah, we've hit it off and been good friends ever since. And Alex has been there for me as well in more dark times, and I've reached out. So for that, Alex, I appreciate your support. My life, I was originally born way back when, a big council estate that was built after the Second World War for the casualties of London and Portsmouth. Portsmouth was a big harbour that was bombed. London, as we all know, during the Second World War was bombed. And what happened is they built this place called Lee Park. It was the biggest social housing for the Americans on board in the world at the time. So we were brought up there, and it was a fight for survival, like just grafting every day. It was a hard life, and the schools weren't really built to sustain the community. It was a big community, and the school system wasn't really built for it. Every day was a struggle. I was brought up in a family where my father was, how do I put it? He dealt with the relationship with his son the way his dad dealt with him. So he just passed that on. So back and forwards. So I left home quite early, about just turned 14. I got on the road and disappeared and had a couple of unfortunate instances, ended up in children's homes and joined the army at 16 and three quarters, joined the parachute regiment. And when I left the army, I then started to travel. Like traveling was my thing. Lived in Australia for many years, lived in France and Chamonix, got into extreme sports, built businesses, started actually gas and heating, had 11 engineers. I was actually the first person to bring in purchasing boilers wholesale in the UK from the distributor, the manufacturer, and then selling them with installation on eBay. And it was very successful. After a few years, a lot of people started to mimic this, so it was saturated. And I'd made some money and I started to travel a lot and kind of lost interest more. When I got back from Australia, I actually went off and done my access to university and done my LLB, got to the end of my second year and started to realize that, you know, a law degree in England isn't what it is anywhere else in the world. You know, my colleagues' friends, for instance, were earning less than my employees because I had the gas company still, and they was just, so I was like, why am I putting all this time and effort? Reading law is very hard. For any of you lawyers out there, you'll know this. So I put a lot of effort in, 3 years of the 4 years, and I decided, okay, like I'm never going to use this. I'm not going to be a lawyer. They don't make enough. They didn't make enough money in England until you got to the partnership level. So got out of that, traveled again, come back and fell into demolition. Like I knew nothing about demolition. But I had a good friend, Wayne, at the time, and he knew everything about demolition, was the contracts manager for a large company, had all the contracts. So we started BD Build. And we started doing top-down demolition around London, enabling diamond drilling, and it was great while it lasted. But it's the commercial construction industry is very cutthroat. Like you wouldn't believe it. The margins are tight, 20%, and then you're kind of stringed up for that 20% by the company. So your margins get smaller and smaller. So when you're looking at it, there's big money in it, but the takeaway and the profits are very low. So that kind of, we were having to find money to run our company. We had 66 or 77, I can't remember one of them numbers, employees at the time, and just stressful, very stressful. So I decided I hit one of my bad patches. I submarined, went into depression, and decided I needed to do something else and got into business consulting because I knew how to start construction companies. I knew how to start building businesses and I knew how to scale them. So I started to work with small builders and implement strategies for them to scale and to win contracts. And then this went on until around, about 4 years ago, when an unfortunate incident happened in my life. My missus left me, the love of my life. My dog died. Everything was a culmination, and I ended up in Colombia. We'll talk through that, no doubt. And Colombia, I ended up traveling back and forwards to Mexico, and then that's how I ended up here today with Alex. In a nutshell, I tried to make that quick, but it's way too long of a story.
Yeah. Wow. So what, I guess, what have been the biggest changes or even projects that you've undertaken in this time? Because big life event, you moved across an ocean, left everything you knew behind. That can be really isolating, really challenging. And I know from talking to you and obviously seeing your content, you mentioned things like Brotherhood a lot. And I know mental health is often talked about with references to isolation, but obviously also moving across the world when you're already struggling can be quite isolating. So I'm wondering, maybe a good place for us to start would be to speak to the term brotherhood and its importance, and have that as a jumping off point, because I know it's, there's a reason it's the title, We're Not Alone, right? Of this episode.
I think we probably should go back to the beginning of the Colombia trip, and I escaped to Colombia and ran off. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I have a way of running off. When things get hard, I tend to leave, and I was in a bad way. And the girl who left me was the love of my life. My dog died, like I spoke to, and I was in a bad way. So I ran off to Colombia and done what most people think you would do when you're in Colombia, and hit rock bottom, just trying to numb the pain. And Colombia was a place of many people doing the same thing. And at the end of the first 6 months, I come to my senses, and I started to decided that I needed to do something else. This can't be my life. I need to try and do something. So what happened, and I can't remember exactly how it came about, but I started a community called We Work for Medellin. And the reason it was called We Work for Medellin is because we started it on the roof of We Work in Medellin.
Wow.
And what we done was run weekly events, but what I wanted to do, rather than just have digital nomad meetups, which were great, by the way, our first one was like 78 people, I wanted to align them with charity causes. So this is how I got to know people like Andrea Gonzalez and volunteers in Colombia, Steve Chacha, Feed the Barrios, a multitude of other NGOs that are working there. And I guess it's like anything, you get addicted. Like I got addicted to drink and drugs, and then I got addicted to charities and NGOs and helping, and it spiraled. So one of the things I'd done in the early stages was bring all the NGOs together to work together in unison, because there wasn't doing this. So we brought them together to sit once a week to share ideas, resources, etc., which is something that wasn't happening at the time. And to get NGOs together, even though it's all charitable, it's also like they're all fighting for the same pot. To get them into a room was a great achievement. And from that, I met, obviously, Andrea Gonzalez, who I talked to. She was a very good friend. She runs Volunteers in Colombia, that's now renamed Mi Barrio Misuno. My Spanish is terrible, guys, even after 4 years. And another lady called Maria Valquez, and Maria runs a consultancy in the US for NGOs, but she's Colombian and living in Medellin. Back home, she was always in America. I met her when she moved to Medellin, and me, Maria Valquez, Andrea, and Andrea's other half, Alex, started a foundation, another non-profit, like the first, called Casa Innovation. And Casa Innovation was, the original concept was to help underprivileged young people and businesses, small business owners, solopreneurs in Colombia, with creating mentors and network for them, a supply chain. And that's how it went for a long time, about a year. And then Maria Valquez has a huge, amazing network in the US of who's who, especially in the NGOs and the C-suite in some of the biggest companies in the US. And she brought them in to support. We ended up with Barclaycard supporting us, the Pharrell Williams Foundation, and a multitude of other support coming in from the US. But the problem was, it was diving into, not the problem, this is going to sound awful, it was going towards, focused at that time on black Colombian women entrepreneurs, and it just didn't resonate with me, because I wanted to do something, but I wanted to do something that really resonated with me. So we built this out. Maria took it by the horns. Maria's an amazing co-founder, and I'm lucky to have her. Took it by the horns and really led it down this path. So it went off on a spiral, and then at Christmas last year, I remember talking to Alex. I was just, something wasn't right. I'd been at this. I'd got a job at a tech company in the US, and they brought me in as, bear in mind, I didn't know nothing about tech. We jumped the gun here a little, but they brought me in as a practice lead to build out their Asana practice, which I built out successfully. And it was a great achievement for me, being someone that had never known nothing about tech. But I applied myself and I scaled the business for them, and it was amazing. But I was getting to the stage where, like, all this money in the bank, and I was just sad, and I was drinking every day. I was drinking from a bar, working on my laptop as talking to clients. I was just dipping and dipping and just
Sounds
drinking.
like that pattern too. Big challenge, succeed, and then what's next? And I
Yeah.
actually met you. I met you, and I remember when you started that role. And then I remember it was about a year later, and you were like, just back to being lost. Like the role pulls you out of being lost, and then once the challenge was over, back into that more difficult phase. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I think that this is one of the things that's been talked about a lot, especially when we get to the men's circles. And it's just that and this goes for everyone, if you haven't got them goals, that purpose, like we get lost. And I meet so many people like every day that because of what I'm doing at the moment, that are in that pattern of like self-destruction because they're lost. They have no purpose. So I got to at the pinnacle. The company was a great company, but their leadership wasn't really visionary, and they didn't really want to invest for us to grow the practice. So I just decided, like, I'm just gonna give him my notice and leave. So I left, and I was in a rut at the time. Ended up going down to live in a village in Jardin in the mountains. And anyone who knows Colombia, Jardin is like the garden of Antioquia, and it's the best coffee region in the world. As a coffee aficionado, the coffee is just amazing. Anyway, long story short, I was down there drinking and just sad, really. Just where am I going again? Like here I am, like a few years later, and I'm just in the same place, just depressed, miserable. And I after the first week there, being out in the mountains, climbing, eating good food, and just exercising and reading again, and just touching base with me, like everything changed again within that week. And I was like, how is this a thing? Like, how can we go from being so depressed, be in the mountains, and then within a week, like completely feel at ease again? Like, there's possibility in the world. And that gave me an idea for MMHR, which is the Men's Mental Health Retreats. If this is something that can change me, then this is something that can help others. I had the conception for MMHR there, and that turned into the first retreat. I built it all out, and the first retreat was in Colombia, in a friend's ayahuasca retreat. Actually, very good friend has an ayahuasca retreat down there, so he got wind of what I was doing and offered me his property, which was amazing of him at no cost, so I could support other humans, other men, at a very low cost. I think it was like £150 or $150 or something stupid. And it was like 4 days. Each morning started off with meditation, ice baths. We had holotropic breath work. We went paintballing. It was just brilliant. We had our instructors come in, and we had a sharing circle every night. And the change in the men, we've made a load of videos for it actually that will be on the website shortly. And the change in the men was just like astronomical. They took, like, after holotropic breathwork, one of the guys went and took a phone call he'd been putting off for 4 years to his family. They hadn't talked to him and just done it after the holotropic breathwork. Another guy, a very good friend, he spent 25 years in prison in the US for murder, and he got out. His story is just amazing as well, other than him being a murderer, of course. Let's take that back. He broke down, and just these things just touched me. Like, that you could see these men that were all bravado on the outside, just breaking inwards and we wasn't given therapy, right? We were just doing things that are free for everyone if you know where to go and know where to find it. So that was a huge success. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, because I wanted to touch on the guy who called his family, right? I know, again, isolation is a really big part of mental health, mental fitness challenges. And I know for you that getting back in touch with your family a few years back was a rather large moment. And I was just wondering if there's anything you want to touch on and share around that experience, since people in your retreat have experienced that and you've experienced that. Anything that you want to share for those listening?
Yeah, I want to add something I won't say his name because he'll probably listen to this at some point. He's a therapist as well. He had all them tools. He knew, but coming away and isolating and removing himself, like, it opened up stuff for him. For me, talking to my family, one of the things I've never done my whole life is talk to my family about issues and problems. I would submarine, and whoever, for those who don't know this term, it means like going into yourself and locking yourself away from the world. And that was something I would do sometimes up to a month at a time over the last 25, 30 years. And one of the, like, I was at such a bad point, like 3.5, 4 years ago, that I needed, if I didn't talk, I would have killed myself. Like, I was just on the precipice. Like, I've been there before. I took an overdose when I was 15 years old, and it wasn't the first time I'd been in this way. And I was so low at the time. And yeah, I was so low at that time that I needed to talk. And I talked to my sisters, and finally my mum and dad, and like the burden, the relief, like the pressure of just talking to people that you wouldn't show weakness to, because I don't know, it's inert, right? The way you're brought up, your father doesn't show love, and it's that saved my life, really.
Yeah.
Because without that, we wouldn't be sitting here today. But
Yeah, I think that is something when I've experienced my versions of this. There is something about talking that science shows us that talking, journaling, process, letting our thoughts out in one way or another it makes changes in our brains and it makes changes in our nervous system. But I think the other thing that I've really realized is talking also gives people a chance to show you that they want to be there, or that they can listen, or that they can understand, and that also they may be able to shift and change, especially our family, because we often have this view of how they were when we grew up, which is for many of us suboptimal, because now that I think as adults we can understand our parents were just adults like we are, dealing with whatever was passed down to them. But sometimes, whether it's your blood relatives and family, or your chosen family, or whatever your support system is, actually flipping the narrative and being vulnerable and giving people a chance to be there for you rather than just always being there for them can really be a really enlightening and different opportunity. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, like you said, like that pressure valve can really just give you a moment to breathe.
I know so many people who unfortunately aren't with us today because they didn't vent, they didn't release that pressure valve, and they didn't talk to family and friends. And that's one of the other reasons why I think my purpose is. So for me, it's everything, because I know there's young people out there, especially like men. Obviously, we know the suicide rates are super high, because they just don't feel like they have anyone to talk to, anyone to release, anyone to vent. And part of what we do at the moment is to build something where people can come on the line and can vent and can be around other people that are going through similar stuff. Because
I want to come back to brotherhood and community.
Yeah.
What is that doing for people?
So we haven't really touched on it yet, but part of my MMHR is men's circles. We have 5 in Mexico at the moment with different facilitators, and men come to create Brotherhood. They're closed off. There'll be 12, 14 men, same men, week in, week out, so they can have real talk about what's going on. So let me give you a run through last night. What we do is we sit down and we have a 3-minute share. So that's like a win or a lose. If there's anything that's playing on your mind with your wife or family or whatever, we have these stuff to vent. And then we let it run into 6 minutes, because people can ask questions like to the person whose time it is. And then what we would do then is after we've done like a round robin, we then spend time on the subject matter of the week. For instance, one that comes to mind was the dark passenger. What do you do? How do you calm yourself when that anger arises within you when you're in a situation? And we talk about that and what tools they have. And then we don't offer advice, but we talk about how we deal with it. So if someone says this happens, and we can say, this is what we do, because one of the things we want to be careful of in our men's circles is not to offer advice, because advice can be the right advice. My advice isn't right for everyone. So we share our experiences, and it's just real raw talk. And I've been part of circles all over now, and in Medellin, where I helped my friend Carlos Gari launch the first ones we've done, and it's still going strong. Another friend of mine, Oliver, runs the ayahuasca retreat, runs that. And again, to see the men form bonds. We went camping, some of us, the other night, and I'll do a daily touch base with one of Ray, a very good friend of mine. We do a check-in every day. I never knew Ray before. We done an ice bath together, and that's how we first met each other. And now we do daily check-ins to make sure we're meditating and we're doing some breath work, and that we're taking some conscious time. And the support these brotherhoods have on people is amazing. When people are going through shit, they reach out, what they need, they're there to support each other. And if you had told me this 5 years ago, that this is what I would be doing, this is what I would be involved in, I would have just laughed you out the water. It would have been, but the truth is that I'm selfish. I built everything I built. I think I've built to make my pain easier as part of my healing journey. But that's how I see it. But I understand how it's affecting other people's lives and how it's changing other people's lives, and that keeps me positive. And I'll go to 3 of my own groups, like 3 a week. I facilitate one of them. I don't facilitate all of them. I facilitate one of them, and it's good for me to be part. And for everyone out there who may be struggling, who just need something different, like alcohol in a pub on a Friday night, and you're at the stage where this isn't doing anything for you. It's just breaking out of that. And brotherhood circles, even the conscious communities out there, like the conscious collective is growing exponentially. We know this. Like everyone talks about meditation, everyone talks about breath work, whether we're starting at yoga, whatever the case may be, ice baths even, that's entry level. That's a great thing to be doing. Like it's on the rise, and there's very good reason for it. Like very good.
Yeah. I know meditation and mindset work now feature very heavily in your daily routines. You and I chat pretty regularly, as well as in the MMHR events. Our thoughts can be so overwhelming at times. And I'm wondering, what is it about thoughts, beliefs, mindset that you find so powerful in transforming your life, transforming how you feel or who you are?
There's a couple of facets to that, really. One, let's talk about podcasters or influencers. Everyone tells you the same thing. Anyone I've met over the last 3 to 4 years that has really been super successful, solopreneur, building their own legacy, everything. The one common modality they have is that they all spend time meditating, breath work, journaling, and it was just like a recurring theme. So when I got into it, it's got to be just coming up for 3 years, I think. It wasn't easy. Just to sit with your own thoughts is the hardest thing that you can ever do. So I sat with led meditations, but still you're sitting in led meditation, you're thinking about your meeting you've got coming up at 1 p.m. and it's hard to shake that. And then some of the tools I use is same as all of us, bringing us back to the breath, right? So bring your attention back to the breath. I'll bring my attention to a light force. When I'm meditating, I believe there's a light force coming through me and connecting me with the ground to the sky. But it's bringing yourself back and picking. One of the things I say when my mind gets cloudy and stuff starts to intervene is like, you don't belong here. So it's finding these little tools that work for you, like bringing yourself back to the breath, concentrating on that. And it really does help center me. Now, when I'm busy, it's even more important because my mind's all over the place. When you've got 1,000 things going on, I'm running so many projects at once. Like it's easy to say, right, I'm just going to work for 13, 14 hours, but it's not productive. And the one thing that really helps me is spending time meditating, doing my breath work. And it really is making me more focused afterwards. If I'm finding that my head's all over the show, I'm taking walks. This is another thing, like get out, take a walk, because you think working 12, 14 hours a day is super productive. It isn't if your mind's just cluttered. You're just jumping from one thing to the other. So the getting out, the walk, 15, like even a small 10, 15-minute meditation just really helps you reset, recalibrate. And to me, there's just three pillars, and we've been talking about this a lot lately. And it really is like the consciousness, which is the modalities, meditation, breath work, then fitness. And fitness can be just getting out walking. And then it's nutrition, right? Making sure you're eating the right things. These three pillars are groundbreaking. They will change people's lives, but it's so hard for us to form these habits. And I'm 3 years down the line, and I still struggle, but my life is so much better, so much more productive, because mindfulness is part of my life. And for those of us that sit out there and they were like, don't have the time for this, you're the one. That's the person that really needs to be doing this stuff. The one that believes they don't have the time. Because when you start incorporating this into your daily schedule, you will see your life change. You will be more productive. I can't cement that fact enough. Like, it's changed my life.
Yeah, I know you've said that what we think about is what we become. And if you keep thinking in the past, then you'll live in the past. And that this has really helped you to transition through the different stages of your life. And almost, you said you've been many people across your life. You've certainly done a lot of things and moved across the world and started fresh a few times. So how have the people and communities in your life changed or impacted your experience and your mental fitness?
Wow, that's a great question, Alex, and probably the most prominent of this conversation, because environment really is everything. There's no doubt. Your environment is everything. It's who you become, who you are. And coming from the background I come from, the being around people that just drunk every weekend, done drugs, it's rinse and repeat. You have a bunch of people working for you. It's just like the norm, and you get caught up in that cycle. England is like one big pub from my experience, and the
Mine as
people are
well.
surrounding. My
Just meaning that
experience.
we both don't live there anymore.
Yeah. My experience has always been a negative one, unfortunately, and that's such a shame, because it's my own fault. I kept putting myself back in them situations. When I come back from traveling, I always went back in and hung around with the same people, because they become my employees and worked with me. So I was never out of that cycle. So it's always the same. And moving away from that, I moved to Medellin and stuck with that cycle, as we talked about, for 6 months. But once I moved across into the NGO circles and around these people that high performers, like, my life changed immediately, because changing your medium of 5 is the most important thing. The reason I left Colombia is because I needed to up my game even more. There's amazing people in Colombia doing amazing things, but there's also a very seedy side to Colombia, like very seedy. And I didn't want that in my atmosphere, in my environment.
Yeah.
I didn't need the temptation around me. And everyone I knew was building out their tech companies, coming down from LA, coming in from Austin to Mexico City. And it was just the next step. So I left because I left some great people. Alex, you've met Alex. He's like my best friend, and he's a great, amazing guy. So it was hard for me to leave Medellin, but I knew, for my mental health, for my business, for the future of the foundation, I needed to go where I could grow, expand, and grow as a person. And I just didn't think that was Medellin, unfortunately. I knew that at that point I needed to up my game again, because I understand the importance of your environment and the people you hang around with. Here's a great analogy. If you play golf, any of you have played golf out there, if you play with 3 people that are better than you, you're going to play the best game of your life. That's a fact. It's always the way. And that's the same with the people you surround yourself with. I surround myself with people who go in places. My team members are just amazing people on an amazing journey. And being around them gives me gives me the enthusiasm every day to succeed for them as well as me, because they've got such huge ambitions. And that's the other thing, when you get to your 40s, your ambition kind of drops off, because you think you've done so much, especially for me, because I've jumped out of airplanes, I've traveled the world, I've done all this stuff. So you think your best years are behind you, but that's crap. They're not. Like, everything's to come. Like, I've got to live in the future. Everyone's got to, because that living in the past is what brought on the depression, right? Because we can't change what's back there. You're never going to be able to change what's back there. One of the things we talked about last night is that when I have I do something that I'm not proud of myself for, I acknowledge it and I forget about it now, because there's no good dwelling on that stuff. It's just going to bring you down. I haven't been drinking for 7-8 months, and I fell off the wagon the other day, a couple of weeks back. But you know what? I just said, okay, it's happened. That's it. I'm just going to move forward. And that was just a drink. I got drunk. I cried a lot. And I was like, right, that's enough. I'm done. I'm not going to do it again. Move forward, not beating yourself up. So that's another golden nugget is don't beat yourself up. Stop it. It doesn't do anyone any good.
And again, so much research around shame spirals and being driven by that and being stuck and trapped, as opposed to acknowledging support. Like, it's often you'll be ashamed of something and just pile on whatever the thing was and make it worse and worse.
Yeah. Abraham Hicks says the 17-second rule, right? If you have negative thoughts for over 17 seconds, they're just going to escalate and ruin your day. So another tool is like when you know you're thinking negative, whether it's a situation that's occurred or your past, you need to learn to change that mindset, right? Joe Dispenza is another great one. If you're into listening to podcasts on YouTube, Joe Dispenza is another good one to listen to.
So I want to ask maybe what might be a real tactical question, but I think really important, because conceptually it's great to say change the people that you're around, change your environment, and you've done that in maybe more extreme ways. But when you are in your 40s or 30s, or really doesn't matter what age, but I definitely agree with you. I would definitely say that the older you are, it often feels the harder it is to change. Or if you arrive somewhere new, it's harder to make new friends. When you came to this awareness of how important the people around you are, how important your environments are, and then you are maybe moving to a new place, how do you go about finding the right people to consciously build your community? And maybe related, or maybe as just a follow-up, when you do go visit old friends or go back to London to see or UK to see family, like, how do you manage that as well?
So building communities is something, I don't know how, but I've naturally been very good at it. And a lot of people aren't. But what I would press on anyone is that there are so many online communities that you don't have to have a profile. You can join, you can touch in, you can touch base, whether it's local communities, Facebook communities. There's 0800 numbers and toll-free numbers in the US, and there are places to start. And the thing is, it's like that old adage, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You're not going to grow. You're not going to meet new people if you don't take that first step. But it's so easy to do that incrementally now, because we have all these options available to us. So if you are sitting there and you are out there and you're not making these connections, just do a look. Facebook gets a bad name, but there are some great communities on there, right, that you can join and be part of, or WhatsApp groups. Especially here in LATAM, the WhatsApp groups are like everywhere. I'm part of so many conscious WhatsApp groups with so many amazing people. But I asked, like when I first landed in Mexico, like I was like, boom, made a Facebook post, asked these questions, and I had a floodgate of answers that helped me build community. But as people, we're scared of rejection, right? Because that's how we've been brought up. We're scared of that person that's sitting in the dark room abusing everyone, trolling them. Like, fuck that. Excuse me. Don't worry about that person. Like, they're suffering more than you are, believe me. So you've just got to just take action. And that's the biggest thing. It's taking action. There's meetups everywhere. Even if you're in London, I know there's hundreds of these meetups in London. You've just got to put away that ego, put aside the that scared little boy, that scared girl, and then just show up and be present. Show up as your true self.
What
What's
you
the
said about,
continuation of that?
I think what you said about asking, I just want to highlight this again for if someone's listening and they're thinking like, yeah, that's great, but ask and act is one of the hardest things to do, but it is life changing, right? And this applies to everything. But I think in the topic that we're talking about today around mental health, probably more so than anything else. But I will say the one of the biggest game changers for me in my life, and I've had a pretty diverse journey and different opportunities and things, but learning to ask, to be a person who asks and for and accepts support has been one of the biggest game changers for me in terms of moving my life in the direction I wanted, achieving things that I wanted, having community, having people who are there for me as opposed to just being someone who's there for everyone, but not allowing anyone in. It's really big. And while it might seem really scary to post or to show up, I think what you said is so vital. If you actually take a minute to interrupt that thought pattern of like, what is actually the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that's happened is you're going to show up somewhere and stand alone for an hour.
Definitely.
It's not going to happen. I promise that's not what will happen. But realistically, if you were like, oh, you're going to go somewhere and you're stand alone and listen, like, is that really terrible? Is that really? Like,
Yeah, well, I love that. And the thing is, when you go to these places, these meetings, these groups, people are not going to let you stand there and be
no,
alone.
and that's what I mean. Like, if you've ever been, then you don't know this. You go to any conscious event of any kind, no one is going to let you stand alone. It's just not going to happen. But if in the worst case scenario it did, or you go for 15 minutes and you leave, right? Like, with your commute, maybe that's 45 minutes altogether. It's maybe an hour. Can you bet an hour on yourself potentially taking a step towards feeling better and changing and
Yeah, and the other thing you got to remember out there is that it's like a skill, okay? So you don't pick up a violin and just play it, and you're not going to walk into a social situation and be like attract the attention, because we go into ourselves generally, and when I believe in energy. So your energy is out there and people are attracted to your energy. And then when we go in and we're inside ourselves, we're not pushing out the right energy. And we may be giving off facial expressions that aren't very easy for people to, yeah. But
I
it
don't know
gets
what
easier.
you mean by that. I definitely did not have resting bitch face for most of my life.
Yeah.
That's completely unrelatable.
But it's like everything. The more you turn up, the more you show up, the easier it gets, and the bigger your community and your friendships get, right? Like it's just showing up is everything.
And it's one of the great things about these types of events and communities is that you will have people at all different levels, and the people who are a little further along will recognize that and come help you out, right? That's why you and I are both so adamant that you won't be alone. And I know it sounds, if you're in a really difficult place and you are listening to this, it sounds like really easy to say, but both of us have been through versions of this. I have showed up to events when I was looking to change my life, when I was extremely unhappy in a life that outwardly looked pretty good, and sat at a table by myself and listened, and I did the thing, and it was really uncomfortable, but I actually made amazing connections that with people that had roles to play in the next 18 months of my life that helped me take steps and make changes. And had I not shown up to a pub in London that was hosting an event around, I think it was called like Quit Your Job and Follow Your Dreams or something. It was a conscious event, and listened to people's stories and sat there thinking I was just going to like duck out at the end. Yeah, who knows where I would be, right? Maybe it would have been something else that would have changed, but no one wanted to come to the event with me. And I just went and I just did the thing. And it was so uncomfortable. And yeah, you can ask Almost every single friend I have, they will tell you when they met me, they thought I was unfriendly, unapproachable.
You had a face paint on when I
I
first
was
met
gonna
you,
say,
so it's hard to read you.
you met me with face paint in a moment. But that version of me was years and years in the making. And even that it was a makeup mask, but it was a facade as well. It was the traveler, the independent, the things. But I think you and I were both on a journey, a crash course that we ended up opening up relatively early in our friendship. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you in my life. And this is what Alex is talking to, is something we because of the situations we put ourselves in as travelers and as people that put ourselves out there, we meet similar people day in, day out, and they all have the same story. Not everyone just showed up and was this omnipresent personality. People had to build themselves up to it, and it's chance. Take that chance, because at the other side of comfortable is magic, right?
Yes. Said. So when I introduced you, I said you have one of the biggest hearts I know, and you got very humble, of course. But I want to come back to that because you've been through the ringer by any measure, and you've not only found a path forward for yourself, but you've made huge moves to create and give to others. And I'm curious, you've spoken to me a little bit about how moving abroad and being in different communities and cultures has influenced you. Where did this come from, and how is it linked to your own healing journey?
That's difficult. The link to my healing journey, I think it is my journey, right? We all have a way of creating something. Like, if you're a business owner, you need to find your minimal viable product or your unique selling point. Sorry about the acronyms. But that is life too. So for me, creating communities was a way of me healing and moving forward. That, for me, that's just everything, because the network, here's a cheesy one, your network is your net worth, but it's also your happiness. Everything's built around your network and friendships. So for me, that everything I do is about healing, is about my journey to wellness. So even my company, Tech Connected, and the people that are on board are all people I resonate with because I've been through similar paths. So everything I do, like, I have a profit share with all my team members. They get half of everything. I'm not greedy. I want us to be a family because we all are all going through the same thing, but we're all healing together. So everything I'm doing is just my healing journey. And this doesn't happen overnight. Like, I've got friends that are 10, 15 years down. You're always going to have to work on yourself, unfortunately, but enjoying the journey. And the destination is the journey. That's one of the things I'd like to say. The destination is the journey, and that's something I've missed over the years. And another thing I'd like to highlight is that one of the hardest things for me was to stop people living in my head rent free. And now I've managed to knock that out. Like, my life is so much better. Like, even a quick interaction, say someone tries to run me over by and get angry, like, just forget about it. Like, I'm tricking myself, or not tricking myself, but learning to forget about it. Like, life's too short. Not letting people live in your head rent free and moving forward. And that's just been the biggest game changer for me recently, is two things: the not letting people live in your head, and understanding this one main factor. No one's coming to save you, like, ever. It's you. And you've got to build your happiness. You've got to build your life. You've got to build your business. And for years, I always thought, I'll meet this perfect girl that I did, and she would be everything that I needed, my support system. And when that fell to pieces, I fell to pieces for many years. And learning that no one's coming to save me was a big wake-up call, and something I talk to a lot of men about, and there's a massive wake-up call for them. And it's that trigger, like, no one's going to save you. So we got to get on and do this ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I rambled on and probably segued
No.
many times.
I just wanted to make sure that you were done, give everyone a minute to soak that in, because I think those are really huge life lessons. Like you said, letting people live in your head rent free, or letting experiences live in your head rent free, is a huge energy drain. And also, like you said, you're building community, but you're also building accountability and taking responsibility for ourselves and going out and learning to ask, right, is massive. So to wrap things up a little bit and want to be mindful of time is you've talked a lot about your time in NGOs and in Colombia and being around amazing people who are giving back to their communities, but you've gone really beyond local community in what you're building. And I understand you have some pretty big news in terms of HR partners. I want to call it like making it official, kind of like put a ring on it, in terms of becoming basically a global nonprofit. I want to make sure that we give you an opportunity to talk about MMHR, where you're taking it, what you're doing, resources that people can look for. So can you tell us a little bit more about that specifically?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. So my life has always been about happenstance and meeting the right people at the right time. And back in Koh Samui, I just left. I was living with Alex for about a month, and we were sharing an apartment. She kindly lent me one of her bedrooms, and I moved over to Koh Samui.
Flatmates.
Yeah, yeah. She kindly lent me a room for a month. And I went, Playa de Carmen wasn't really my thing, so I went over to Koh Samui. And then I was on a beach one day and I met this guy, Andrew, who he was an ex-Marine, wounded in duty, and just a great guy. And we just got chatting and we kept in touch. And when he heard about what I was doing, he was there to support me and sponsor me. And then when he found out that I wanted to create a non-for-profit in the US, he just jumped on board immediately and he ran with it. We had to change our name. This is something that I wanted to talk about today, to Courageous Resolve. And we are registered as a non-for-profit in Florida. A couple of reasons for that, but the main reason is Florida has the largest amalgamation of military veterans. So there's a lot of funding down there. Andrew himself is very well connected, runs a DoD consultancy, Department of Defense, for those that don't know the acronym, and he has high reach, senators, etc. So we have just been registered as a 501c3 and a non-for-profit, and we'll be launching a platform. I'm not going to go into the platform because we've got very short time. But again, happenstance, by smiling at someone on the beach, just being friendly, holding your head up, don't walk around looking at the ground, has led me to some of the most amazing opportunities I've ever had. And yeah, that's it really in a nutshell. We've expanded, we're growing. I've got the right people behind me, and we'll drop some links. But watch this space. When anyone who's listening resonates or wants to get involved, we run men's circles. I'm expanding these globally. So please reach out. I'd love to work with anyone who's interested to.
Amazing. So we'll put the links in, but people can find you through the Courageous Resolve website. Is that the best way to get in touch?
At the moment, it's still mmhretreat.com, but it is courageousresolve.org. So we have both websites up. So go to courageousresolve.org. That's a holding page at the moment, but we're building that out and transferring everything from the MMHR, which is the men's circles pages and the retreat pages, over to Courageous Resolve. This is all happening in real time as we're talking.
True entrepreneurship, building the plane as you're flying it. We will be sure to get the right links, and if they need to be updated as we go along, we can always update them in the description. So Mike, thank you for sharing that. It's been incredible. This season, I'm adding a few get to know you questions at the end. And so I'd love to ask you these questions. You're welcome to pass if it's absolutely getting you stuck. It's just 4 questions. What is an experience that changed your life?
That's a hard one. It was an experience that changed my life. I'd have to say Colombia. That is the experience. And we've been through that.
Yes. Yes. Refer to the beginning. Refer to
Yeah.
So, all right. What is the best question you've been asked?
The best question I've been asked. Yesterday we were talking. We've just launched a YouTube channel called the Productivity Academy, and was the best advice to giving someone starting out in business. And it's be an autodidact. Set a time. So for those who don't know, autodidact is someone that's forever learning. Always set time. Schedule some time, and even if it's an hour a day, to learn something new. Never stop, because if you're keeping the cognitive sparks flying, you're never going to lose it. So always be learning. ABL.
Yeah, I love it. What is a book that changed your perspective on anything?
Easy one. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A book I've read every day, every year for 25 years. Dale Carnegie. If you haven't read it, then you're really missing out.
Amazing. And the last question, if you could go to any concert tomorrow, touring or not, dead or alive, what would it be?
Lumineers. I just love the Lumineers.
Oh, I love them as well.
For many other reasons, but the Lumineers.
Incredible. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing so openly about your journey, and also for everything that you're doing. I'm so excited to keep following this journey, to catch up with you hopefully soon in person. Thank you for everyone who joined us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. Our goal is to create connections and inspire conversations about building great companies. So please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast with your network. Sharing is caring. If you're a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with high-performing teams, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership assessment and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. You'll also find the link to join the Builders Club to stay up to date on upcoming events, get valuable tools and insights, as well as be the first to receive exciting announcements straight to your inbox. No spam, I promise. You'll also find my website, alexsnyder.com, and all the places to peep my creds, hear what clients have to say, and see if I went to the gym today. And one final note, this podcast is not intended to be legal, tax, or other professional advice. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you on the flip side.